Airbnb used to be hated by just the hotel industry. Now it is hated by the hotel industry, governments, travelers who used to love them, and would-be homeowners. However, for a few reasons we can get into later, Airbnb may be starting to win people back over. Airbnb started as an ethical company with an idea about how to make travel more sustainable. They connected travelers and locals through room sharing, with one of the key ideas being that the money spent on your stay no longer went to a massive corporation like Marriott or Hilton. It went directly into the local's pocket and benefited the local economy. This allowed tourists to feel less guilt about filling up the city's crowded streets, knowing the money was staying in the neighborhood. However, some people saw being an Airbnb host as a way to make serious money. Airbnb was no longer renting a room from a friendly local. It became another week of your life dealing with an unreasonable landlord. It turns out that people hate being asked to do chores at the end of their vacation, and they especially hate being asked to tidy up the place when a $100 cleaning fee is already being charged. Anger and frustration spread online about how much Airbnb had changed, and despite Airbnb listening to many of the complaints, it was too late and people began going back to hotels. One reason this was easy to do is because the price gap had significantly narrowed since Airbnb's glory days. Price was one of the main reasons why many people preferred Airbnbs over hotels, and there's no arguing the fact prices have gone up on Airbnb over the years. According to AirDNA, roughly 9 of 10 Airbnbs in the US have a cleaning fee, which means the same Airbnb can be cheaper than a hotel over the course of a week, but more expensive if only booked for 1 or 2 nights. So which is more expensive is heavily dependent on the type of trip. One area where Airbnbs have a sneaky advantage is through the cost of food. Hotels force you to eat out every night, while Airbnbs come with kitchens you can use to slash the food cost of your trip. Considering the cost of food is obviously not baked into the raw price of Airbnbs and hotels, a lot of people don't even consider this. Airbnb's math still works for group and family travel, as well as longer stays. The real question, however, is do Airbnbs still come out on top on weekend getaways? In many areas, the answer is no. Hotels also have the advantage when it comes to amenities, service, loyalty programs, and more, making the choice for some travelers easy. Airbnb's wide selection of millions of rooms that were all unique helped it grow, but it was also their downfall. Millions of rooms means millions of hosts, and with some hosts being reasonable and others being not so reasonable, people started to trade uniqueness for predictability. Last-minute cancellations on Airbnb can be a trip ruiner, and many people decided that while on vacation, it may be best to not risk disaster on the unknown of an Airbnb. From there, things only got worse for them. One of the leading issues facing countries all over the world right now is the global housing crisis, and governments are putting Airbnb in their crosshairs. Studies have shown Airbnb can raise rents in tourist-heavy areas. New York City has basically banned Airbnbs altogether, given they require hosts to be physically present among other rules. Barcelona has seen significant backlash from residents in recent years, and is banning Airbnb completely by 2028. And there are many more cities across the world that have deemed Airbnb an enemy. Even though Airbnbs only make up a tiny amount of global housing stock, and therefore is a tiny part of the housing crisis, public opinion has turned against them. Few things anger people more than the picture of an empty Airbnb sitting unused for weeks on end. A survey from Upgraded Points said roughly half of travelers say the housing issue would make them reconsider booking with Airbnb. The powerful hotel industry has also made sure regulators hit Airbnb hard, as a leaked 2016 document from the American Hotel and Lodging Association showed the industry committing millions to campaign against Airbnb by funding front groups and lobbying senators. And it is easy to see why they did that. After New York City decimated Airbnb listings by about 80%, hotel rooms hit record prices as demand boomed. There are 2 main trends in travel at the moment, and they seem to be pulling travelers in opposite directions. One is authenticity, which has been around for a while at this point, and is what allowed Airbnb to become one of the largest companies in travel. After all, authenticity is basically their entire brand. It is impossible to get more authentic than staying in an actual local's home. Demand for authenticity did not go anywhere. Airbnb's problems are mainly self-inflicted. The other trend is more recent, which is luxury. The luxury segment of the tourism industry is seeing massive growth. Airplanes are adding more premium seats due to increased demand. Luxury trains and luxury cruises are also booming. Hotels benefit from this luxury trend as they provide pools, gyms, room service, and many things Airbnbs cannot match. Airbnbs rarely have anything extra. On the other hand, however, hotels can do whatever they can to make you feel the local culture through decorations, but when you are staying in a hotel owned by a Fortune 500 company, things will likely always feel fake. As a result, hotels are actually making updates to integrate more of the local culture into their aesthetics. A middle ground I personally like are independent and boutique hotels. They have most of the perks of chain hotels while also giving you more of a local feel. As much as Airbnb has fallen over the years, I think they may be about to make a comeback. They have made many updates over the years that address most of the complaints people had about them. The total price is now shown to you up front when searching, indoor cameras have been banned, and chore lists are now required to be visible before booking. A lot of the problems Airbnb had do not go away because of this. There can still be excessive chore lists and unreasonable check-in times, but at the very least you get to know what you are signing up for before you hit book. The increased regulation of Airbnb may actually help restore their image and reminds people of the old days. In New York City, for example, their law of requiring the Airbnb to be the host's primary residence allows you to know you're getting the old Airbnb experience of staying in a local's actual apartment. Also, in other locations that do not have these types of laws in place, if you have ethical concerns about Airbnb property managers buying up housing supply in an area, you can see on Airbnb whether or not a host manages multiple properties. Looking earlier, I found a lot of homes that are run by property managers, but also some that are run by locals who only manage the one. Airbnb also just announced 2 days ago they are officially expanding their listings to include boutique and independent hotels. As I mentioned earlier, the right boutique hotel can sometimes give you the best of what Airbnb and hotels have to offer. This could be a smart move as it puts them in a category closer to Expedia or Booking.com, except in their own lane of authentic stays. They may see this new independent hotel strategy as a way to win back some of the urban travelers. And of course, to get around the government regulations. Airbnb has had no problems competing with hotels when it comes to rural travel, as this is where the discrepancy in supply is most notable considering hotels are located in more densely populated areas usually. Therefore, this could be a way for Airbnb to try and start competing with hotels in the city again. They are incentivizing this new offering by giving customers a 15% credit when you book with one of these hotels, as well as a price match guarantee. It is interesting to see Airbnb add boutique hotels while hotels try to give off a more local feel through their decor. This makes it seem like both sides are trying to become more like each other. The battle between Airbnb and hotels will not end anytime soon. And even though Airbnb prices will never return to what they once were, the founding values of the company seem to be getting closer. The question is whether or not increased regulation will provide Airbnb with some of the magic it used to have among travelers in the cities. In Barcelona, it appears to be too late. But in New York City and other areas willing to give Airbnb some room to operate, it will be interesting to see if the company's reputation ever changes. Let me know what you think in the comments below and whether you like Airbnb or if you are never going back. Thanks for watching and I will talk to you next week.